In September 2019, Architecture Is held a week-long festival in Bath, discussing, debating and challenging how we can make a city that is good for the body, mind and soul. The Therapeutic City Festival explored the ideas and ideals of leading designers, economists and thinkers. They presented their thoughts on planning and urbanism, place and community, and design and health, and shared their visions of how all these things could work together for a sustainable future. In autumn 2020, we reflect back on these visions from a world that has radically changed. And yet, as we look forwards, these visions and the challenge to make them a reality are now more relevant, more important, and more needed than ever.
So, my take on the future is to look at the next 10 years. We've got 10 years to save the planet. And how do we retune the way we live in Bath to that? So I think it's less about therapy, which is about fixing something that's wrong, and let's make it about feeling good about ourselves, feeling good about our community, and feeling good about our city.
So my first question as a politician is, how do we want to live? And I think that's a really important question, because basically our values and where we want to live and how we want to live is paramount of importance. And I don't think we ask that question very often.
What is health? It's this definition which sort of lets us in. It opens the door, because it's not just saying it's about pills and medicine and service delivery. And it's not just about illness, it's about the ability to ward off disease.
Never like putting the word disease on anything, but I kind of makes a point. Disease occurs when the mind, body and soul are not working in harmony. The term dis-ease represents the turmoil created when these three components are out of alignment.
So it's a perennial agenda. Why do we need healthy cities? And if you look at this is all causes of death, 20th century death, and the number of people dying from different diseases in the 20th century. We've got non-communicable diseases here, humanity, that's sort of wars, crime, homicide, cancers here, and infectious diseases. And to what degree, I'm quite interested, to what degree is the built environment implicated in this death? So this is what people die of. Where's the built environment here? And when the medics assess the built environment, they really compress it down.
The way to get to the kind of city, what kind of city do we want, is first of all to talk about what kind of life do we want. What kind of life do we want? Eye level, local, everyday for people.
Where there's inequality and where the inequality is quite stark, it doesn't matter if it's a small pocket of people, if it exists, then you can't just label the entire city healthy.
Can we design for time? Can we give time to allow a moment, to allow convalescence? And it's really important, because it's not recovering from an illness, but I think it's about recovering from the pace at which we're all increasingly expected to exist in.
Progress in health depends not only on the strength of health systems, it's not just about building more hospitals and having more pills, but also on shaping urban environments.
Basically, Bath is a global icon. It's a national treasure. It's our home, but we don't value it enough.
And of course the name, which is sort of world famous and originally meaning waters of solace, aqua solace, and then that changed over time to sort of Anglo-Saxon immersion in water, and then it was actually called bathed for a while. And other European spa towns, like the town of Spa in Belgium, completely embrace water. They recognise the benefits of having it in the urban environment.
It's not a new idea. Obviously, Bath had the idea of the cure, so you would come and in the mornings you'd take the waters, in the afternoons you would go out to either ride out or walk out and get your juices flowing and get the benefits of the fresh air. We had doctors like George Chain and William Faulkner who were very pioneering in this idea of the outdoors and exercise as part of the cure. And we then get it ridiculed in things like the comforts of Bath back in the 18th and 19th century. So we're looking to kind of update this idea. We're not so much dealing with gout and the like now as we are with diabetes, heart disease, obesity.
I think one of the the things that is going to become increasingly important, not least in relation to climate change issues, is that the focus is less on the places you visit and more on the places that you create and the quality of experience and life that you create where you are. You know, by all means, you want to welcome people to come and see those places. You want to go and see other places yourself. But maybe one of the biggest and best things you can do is to work on where you are.
But if Bath is lacking in diversity and it's too expensive because it's so beautiful, making it more beautiful isn't necessarily going to help, is it? You need to do other stuff as well.
But I think also well-being isn't just nature. And Bath is a city for people. All cities are cities for people. It's incredibly undiverse. It's possibly the most undiverse city in the United Kingdom. It's resolutely middle class and white. As we take away our freedom of movement, it's going to become more so.
If you go to Bath, walk around, you'll find that there's very little water around, which is really quite strange, because it has this amazing history, of 3,000-4,000 years of having the waters being discovered by Prince Bladud here, and people come from all the way around the world to see the waters here. They queue up around the Roman baths to see it. And the whole kind of architecture and identity of Bath, some of its best buildings have actually been associated with water.
But I think also the UK is unable to take a long-term view, and we politically twiddle at the edges when the world burns. And what we need more than anything is an innovative vision for Bath, which is socially inclusive, where well-being is for everybody and not just wealthy visitors.
Looking at well-being, looking at happiness is not some sort of nice to have when we fixed the other stuff. It is the other stuff, it is the big stuff. Rather than answering the question about whether or not well-being is good for the economy, I'm going to turn that on its head and say surely well-being is the whole purpose of the economy. For me, the purpose of business, of politics, of education, of any of those things is to further and grow the well-being of people and place, as we're talking about today, and the planet.
I think the evidence, if you look at the evidence, there's so much evidence, this way, that way, every other way, telling us a very simple thing. That if you have a good job, me and you, it's really important to your well-being, your self-esteem and everything else. Agreed? Yep. So if you lose your job, the goddamn ceiling falls in.
As we move towards being part of, as architects, urban designers, landscape architects, planners, as we move towards becoming part of public health, whether we want to or not, do we need a kind of Hippocratic oath for designers? Do we need to do no harm? So at the moment we can design an environment and we know it will kill people in the long term over a kind of a 40-year period. And that's fine or it's acceptable.
I find it very encouraging that there's something very universal about the idea of what does it mean to live a good life, to have well-being, to flourish. When we ask people what are some of the key ingredients for that, these are just some of the words that come up time and time and time again.
Yeah, it is possible, which is the good news, to help restore health and well-being. And the built environment, the design of cities can help to do that. So. These are the kind of three areas, psychological, physiological, and kind of social factors to help move kind of negative positions through to kind of healthier ones.
I think the local authority's consistent failure is to provide a cohesive vision for Bath beyond the banal rhetoric around shopping and tourism.
We should be using this framework in Bath together to create a city that's healthy, lots of well-being, lots of good jobs, right? But I certainly recommend this framework. The government wants us to use it. We use this in all the work we do to frame our analysis of what the impact of business and investment is.
The council or another public body like a development corporation should take control of the land, should put the infrastructure in, should create the plots, should write the rules, and then should sell the plots off either individually or up to 100. And if Barratt's want to buy 100 and follow the rules, so be it. They're allowed to do that. But if you want to build one and do a self-build, you should be able to do that as well. And it's interesting, that sounds like a radical thing to do, but actually it's the way that the rest of the world does it.
I don't think we need a more visionary planning system. I think we need a more simple planning system, which gets which codes the rules of this self-organisation urbanism much more clearly, so that the place we want emerges. And if the place that emerges is not what we want, we change the rules, and we keep changing the rules until we get the place we actually want.